Hey everyone, welcome to Mountain Beast Mysteries. In today's video, we're going to be talking about a very crazy encounter that happened to two wildland firefighters back in the early 90s in Washington. I love these stories about wildland firefighters because, well, I used to be one here in Alberta. And, the crazy thing about being a wildland firefighter is that a lot of times wildfires occur in very, very remote areas where, a person might not have ever even set foot, like the absolute middle of nowhere. So that the odds of somebody encountering a living being or an upright being of some kind that's a human or something identifiable is very slim. If there's going to be any kind of creature like that in some of these spots, it's probably going to be a Bigfoot. And in this story, it's a classic tale of rock throwing, and I love rock throwing stories as well because the first Bigfoot story that I ever investigated was the one that my father told me about having some rocks thrown at him at Henry Lake on Vancouver Island near Port Alberni. So I love this story. I love all these ones about these wildland firefighters for the reasons I just mentioned. And it's interesting because they're government employees and they've come forward and they're willing to share those encounters with us, which is great. So let's get into it here. The year was 1993. I was employed with the U.S. Forest Service in Skykomish, Washington. I was part of a wildland firefighting crew on the Skykomish Ranger District. I should point out that I grew up in the mountain regions and did lots of hunting and hiking all my life. My father was a hunting guide when I was a young boy, and I'm very familiar with all species of Northwest wildlife, tracks, sounds, and smells. On the night of the 22nd of July, the district encountered many lightning strikes. The following morning, we firefighters met with officials to determine what areas were hit and to find out who would be going where. We split up in teams of 2. After reaching the end of the Beckler River drainage, I saw the smoke in the area of concern, which was high on a steep, thick, north-facing hillside. Me and my partner geared up and started climbing the mountain. The terrain was very rugged, steep, rocky, and thick with devil's club and salmonberry brush. After hiking approximately 2.5 to 3 hours through this terrain, moving slow due to the steepness, we finally reached the fire. We worked on the fire for about 2 hours and then started our descent back to our truck. We took a slightly different route than the way we came up. We were about 200 yards down from where we had been working when my partner Joe slipped and dropped his shovel. It slid down the steep hill about 100 feet or so. I offered to go down and get it for him. When I climbed down to the shovel, it had landed in a rocky outcropping, and I had to carefully scale the terrain to get down to the ledge. When I got to the shovel, I noticed a small cave entrance that had brush surrounding it. As soon as I got closer to inspect, I could smell a foul odor coming from inside. I shined my light inside the cave and could tell it was larger inside. I was able to see how deep it went back with my light. The odor kept me from going any further in. I had heard of the foul odor associated with Bigfoots and immediately became uncomfortable. It was an overall eerie feeling. I yelled up to Joe that I had found a cave and it really stunk. He seemed to just want to keep heading back to the truck, so he continued down the path we were on before I climbed down for the shovel. I was looking down the mountain to see how I was going to get down off the ledge and connect with the trail we were on before. As I was standing there, I saw out of the corner of my eye a bowling ball-sized boulder came flying over my head. It crashed and rolled into a ravine about 10 or 15 yards downhill from me. I yelled back up the hill to Joe, "Did you throw that?" When he said no, I realized that he had already walked away from where he had been and was now on the way to the left of my location. It was at that moment I realized that rock could not have been thrown by him, nor did it roll down the hill, because I would have heard it crashing down from above me. Then I looked back up the hill from where the rock had come from, just in time to see another rock coming from above me. The second rock hit the ground more to the left and below me. I was visually scanning the area where the rock had come from when I heard movement in the brush. I crouched down and watched the area, and then saw a dark, hairy figure walking upright along the side of the mountain away from me. It was always partially obscured by brush and trees, so I couldn't really tell the color or exact height, but I would guess about 7 to 9 feet tall. I watched it for a few seconds, then yelled to Joe, "I see it! I think it's a Bigfoot!" As soon as I yelled that, I looked back up and it was dead still and silent. I felt like it stopped and hid when I yelled because I didn't see or hear anything else. At this point, I really wanted to get out of there, so I side-hilled over to Joe and we quickly descended back to our vehicle. We were both very freaked out and talked about it all the way back to the ranger station, where we reported the incident to our wildlife biologist and other officials at the ranger district. I was later contacted by someone at the University of Washington who wanted to interview me and have me take him to the site. I moved from the area shortly afterwards and I never took him there, which is why I'm submitting this report. I want people to know my story. There you go, another really interesting tale. We have the odd stench, the really foul smell emanating from this cave, and in like 90% of the stories I've told in the last little while, we have that smell. So that seems to be a really good sign of these creatures being around. And like the rock throwing thing, you have this guy having boulders being thrown at him, but he doesn't hear them tumbling down from above as if they would have fallen. It's like something tossed to them, and when he hears them on the ground, like rolling on the ground, it's below him. So something must have thrown it, over his head or by his head, and they land below him. Seems to be an intimidation thing. This guy was not supposed to be there. He was just trying to retrieve this shovel, and by the creature's surprise, they had an encounter. And so what's it going to do? It's going to do whatever it can to scare this guy away. And a common thing that Bigfoot are supposed to do is throw rocks. And that's what this one chose to do. And it worked. It was an effective tactic. The guy got out of there. They were both terrified. He was able to actually see the creature somewhat through the bushes. And once he kind of yelled up to his friend, the creature had stopped and kind of hid away, and he wasn't able to see it anymore. We got the foul smell, we got the rock throwing, two very typical Bigfoot signs that we hear time and time again. And we'll probably, hear many more encounters that feature these two things. This one does not, however, include vocalizations, which, you can't have all three things all the time. But, a very incredible encounter nonetheless. I mean, we have crazy wildfires every year, every summer, and it just creates much more opportunity for these encounters to happen while people are going out into the remote wilderness to fight these fires. So hopefully in the future we get more encounters like this, and maybe some footage or some audio recordings or something like that. Let me know what you guys think of this encounter down in the description below. Did you work for forestry? Were you ever a wildland firefighter? Have you ever experienced anything like this? Let me know. If you want to support Mountain Beast Mysteries, you can do so using the GoFundMe link in the video description. Thanks for watching this video, guys. We'll see you next time on Mountain Beast Mysteries.